Tran Nhat Phong would like to greet all of the audience from everywhere. It is 5 p.m. California time or 7 p.m. Houston, Texas. Thanks to all the friends from everywhere who choose Phong channel to follow daily news, comparative analysis, and comparison based on Phong's subjective analysis. Thank you to everyone. As Phong introduced before, this afternoon has a special program to commemorate April 30th. The South Vietnamese lost control of the country to the North Vietnamese Communists for exactly 45 years, and 45 years of building a community of Vietnamese refuge abroad. I hope all Phong's audience watch this show. And after this show, Phong will read everyone's comments.
Công dân ơi, đứng lên đáp lời sông núi, đồng lòng cùng đi hy sinh vì thân sống, vì tương lai của dân cùng sông pha khói tên, làm sao cho núi sông từ nay luôn vững bền, dù cho thầy phơi trên gươm dao, thủ nước lấy máu đào đất bao, nòi sông lúc biên phải cần giải nguy, người công dân luôn vững bền tâm trí, cùng trang quyết chiến đấu làm cho khắp nơi vang tiếng người nước Nam cho đến muôn đời. Công dân ơi, mau hiến thân dưới cờ, công dân ơi, mau làm cho cõi bờ thoát cơn tàn phá vẻ vang, nói rộng xưng danh nghìn năm dòng sông Lạc Hồng.
With the rice fields that the stork can fly without stopping, the rivers of life in the South are full of rustic simplicity. A row of rivers and mountains without pollution and natural disasters, which has become a dream of Taiwan, Korea, and Philippines. Once known as the Southeastern Asian granary, with a beautiful and honored education, reconciled with the confession and civilized education of the West, the South was once the Philippines and Thailand's longing dream. A Saigon with a humane architect and kind people, a symbol of an Asian country full of politeness, elegance, and earnestness. In the traditional costume known by the world as the Pearl of the Far East, there is an institution with the earliest republic in the region, promising to become a brilliant symbol of development, of a prosperous economy, the dream of many Asian countries, which only hope to be developed by a part of it. The country is named Republic of Vietnam, with a mere 20 million people and army. In just a moment, all the good things vanished. Only one faithful day for the entire nation to sink in the night of hell. Saigon fell into a panic of fear. The people of the South were killed along with the fate of the nation. The country was thrusted in a fierce whirlwind. April 30th, 1975, the fateful day in which the homeland was destroyed insolently. April 30th, 1975, hundreds of thousands of Republic of Vietnam heroic soldiers in the war were enslaved in the sacred forests of poisonous water, in the enormous prison camps known as labor re-education camps. Many soldiers died and left anonymously graves covered with weeds. April 30th, 1975, tens of thousands, wives and children of the soldiers were kicked out of the house with empty hands and relocated to the wild jungle full of sickness and deadly unknowns. April 30th, 1975, millions of children of the Republic of Vietnam soldiers were discriminated against and used as human shields in Cambodia. After the fateful day of April 30th, 1975, millions of people risked their lives to cross the sea and forest to reach the freedom shore. After the fateful day of April 30th, 1975, hundreds of thousands of people died in the open sea, deep forest, because of their desire for freedom. And also, after the fateful day of April 30th, 1975, the Lac Hung children also had to disperse all over the world and become immigration children without a homeland. 800,000 militias of the Republic of Vietnam were imprisoned after the communists took over South Vietnam. Nearly 100,000 of their wives and children were robbed, kicked out of their homes, and sent to undeveloped economic zones. Over 1 million children of the soldiers of the Republic of Vietnam were discriminated against by the Vietnamese Communist government. They were forced into grim deaths at the Battle of Cambodia. Over 1 million Vietnamese were present at refuge camps in Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines, and all the way to Hong Kong. To flee from communism, over 100,000 people died in the jungles of the Cambodian-Laotian borders. Many crossed on terrifying seas and pirates at immense seas. 20 million people in southern Vietnam were left with nothing to eat except drums, sweet potatoes, and barley to survive.
20 triệu người dân miền Nam Việt Nam đã không còn gì để ăn, phải ăn độn từ bo bo cho tới những khoai lang, trái ấu để sinh tồn.
I am Buddhist monk Thich Thom Lai. Today I'd like to send my heartfelt thoughts to all the people in the country and those living abroad. To those present in the special ceremony online, April 30th in the United States and the 5 continents of the 4 seas, let us take a minute of silence to honor all the heroes and the soldiers of the Republic of Vietnam who had died on April 30th, 1975. We have been fortunate enough to escape to the United States. We cannot forget the soldiers of the Republic of Vietnam in the Military District 1, District 2, District 3, District 4, and especially Division 18, because they stayed to fight until the last bullet to give us time to escape in Saigon by boarding the helicopters, landing on the aircraft's carrier, and then heading to the United States. Let us take a moment to pray for those who have laid down to give us freedom and to pray this year for the 45th year of the National Day of Hatred. We pray for the country of Vietnam to soon be free and democratic. Pray for the President of the United States will soon eradicate Chinese communists in the world, so that the communist dictatorship of Vietnam will soon be destroyed, and the Vietnamese people in the country will also be free and happy. Vietnam will be a multi-party and non-communist party. I invite all our compatriots to light candles in our hearts to pray for the people of Vietnam to soon escape the communist regime. I am Buddhist monk Thich Tom Lai, bowing toward the holies, Buddha, gods, and the Buddhist spiritual leaders, the Christian leaders, the Huaism leaders, and Cambodianism leaders. Please join me in lighting spiritual candles to pray for the heroes who died for the homeland, for the soldiers who died in battle, and for the compatriots who died April 30th. And pray for the people of Vietnam to soon escape from hell on earth and the Chinese communists will collapse. The Vietnamese communists will no longer rule over Vietnam. 1 minute of silence, 1 minute of lighting candles for the people of Vietnam and those who lay down so that we can survive. Respectfully. After 1975, back then, I was only 2 years old. From the year 75 to 85, if the people were still in Vietnam, at that time, they would have a very difficult and extreme life. I could not forget about it. It was around year 77 to 78. We were only 4 years old then, but I still remember that Christmas Eve in the year 78, right after Christmas Eve, the whole family was getting ready for dinner. It was between 4 to 8 p.m. There were 10 people dressed in civilian clothing knocking on our doors. And then these people broke into our homes and gathered all our family members, including our parents and 3 small children, which were my older and younger sisters, in the living room. One of the 10 people dressed in civilian clothes took out a fairly long piece of paper from his bag, and up till now I still remember that piece of paper. They read all the crimes they framed my father, such as his book writing, fought communism, and did things that violate the rules of the Vietnamese Communist government. Then they escorted my parents into 2 different rooms that were in my house, so they interviewed them separately and asked a lot of questions. And later on, when we recalled, maybe at that time they wanted to see the answers of my father and my mother were consistent with these two questions. While my father and mother were questioned, the rest of them went to rummage around, ransack corners, and search our writing desks. They went into the bedroom to take out all the things and made my home chaotic. I still remember as if I was a little kid. They searched our toy box and emptied them to see if there were any papers. They went to my father's bookshelf and they searched each book. I have to say that lasted for a few hours, and they still couldn't find any piece of evidence. But in the end, I still remember the time they took my father away. So that was the time we still remembered, even though it was several decades ago. But it was the day of Christmas Eve, 24th of 1978.
Sau mấy chục năm chúng tôi vẫn còn nhớ, đó là vào đúng ngày, đúng vào đêm Giáng sinh 24 Tây. Chúng tôi nghĩ lúc đó khoảng năm 1978.
Đêm nay anh gánh dầu ra biển anh chôn hết cả những gì quá yêu thương. Anh chôn mối tình chúng mình, gửi lại em trăm nhớ ngàn thương. Họ ơi, tạm biệt nước đêm nay đêm tối trời anh bỏ quê hương ra đi trên chiếc thuyền hy vọng vượt trùng dương. Em đâu có ngờ đêm buồn bỏ lại em cay đắng thật thương. Họ ơi tạm biệt nước anh phải bỏ đi thắp lên ngọn lửa hy vọng. Anh phải bỏ đi đến còn sống. Anh phải rời xa mẹ Việt Nam đau đớn. Quê mình giờ đây em có đời chờ. Anh tạm rời xa nước non mình yêu kiều. Phố phường thân yêu người quen làng xóm. Mong vượt biển đông mà lòng anh tan nát. Núi mờ xa ôi ngọn núi ở quê hương. Đêm nay anh gánh dầu ra biển anh đi, ghé đi trên sông cuồng thấy gì ở quê hương. Xa xa ôi núi mờ, mắt khóc phần thân. Họ ơi, họ ơi, phần kẻ lưu vong. Đêm nay trên bản đồ có một thuyền ra đi, hiên ngang trên sóng gào, tự do đón chào. Xin chào tự do với nỗi niềm cay đắng, nhìn lại bên bờ nước non mình môi mặn, khóc nghẹn ngào. Họ ơi, họ ơi, tạm biệt nước non. Họ ơi, họ ơi, tạm biệt nước non.
At age of 16, I was serving as a soldier in 1973. After the year 73, I graduated and served with the 12th Union, 39th Platoon in Da Nang. After that, I was marched in Quang Nai, and I got injured from the landmines. The second time I got injured was in Dien Ban district because of the communist regime 82 Canyon. I got injured for the third time in 1975. I was discharged because I was injured 2 months before the communists took over in 1975. It was very panicking. People ran, many died, and shot each other. I escaped, but they captured me and recognized who I was. They sent me to the new economic zone in 1976. I stayed for 4 to 5 months and fled to the south. I was married. I went to the south by train, so I gave my wife all my military ID. My wife sat in the front while I sat in the back. I went straight from Saigon down to Long Xuyen and finally to An Giang, Rakhine Province. In 1985, our family built a very small boat. It was 18 feet long and 6 feet wide. It was very small because I ran with 2 small engines. I started at the checkpoint station by hiding behind the steering wheel. The mosquitoes bit, and I transformed them one by one, a total of 16 people. I sailed the boat without a compass, but only aimed at the sun. I kept going until I ran to the West Germany's oil platform. I was also under a stormy weather and arrived in Shanghai on March 31, 1985.
Bắt đầu tôi vô Sông La là cái ngày 31 tháng 3 năm 1985.
Thưa mẹ, con là người Việt Nam, luôn lưu từ dòng máu điêu tàn. thưa mẹ, con là người da vàng, màu da của kiếp lầm than. Quê hương ta cùng với ngàn ngàn, quê Sài Gòn Hà Nội, nhưng vết tích tang thương màu thân mùa hè đỏ lửa đại lộ bình hoàng. Con nhớ mãi trong lòng con bất diệt, rồi những ngày miệt mài trong giấc ngủ say. 30 ngày ấy tháng từ xưa, lòng con đương lùng trời mưa lũ, phố cũ tình xưa bóng phủ nhang hoa. Có một ngày nào con sẽ xa kinh kỳ hoa lệ lũ hoang mang. Chẳng tiền mấy nhịp con vẫn nhớ, thiên mụ bao từng con chẳng quên. Sài Gòn đó từng con phố nhỏ, mỗi dòng đường vàng dấu chân con. Nha Trang đã gánh trời thơ mộng, nhưng chẳng bao giờ con dám quên. Giờ đây mỗi đứa con lặn lội mối neo, đứa luôn đồn, đứa ba vì, đứa đèo theo gió hút. Gặp nhau từng dòng lệ xót xa, buông những câu chào đôi ba sinh nữ. Bonjour, au revoir, hello, goodbye. Con ôm đầu chua xót đắng cay. Thưa mẹ, thưa mẹ, thưa mẹ, quê hương mình đã chết rồi. Mẹ ơi, mẹ ơi, mẹ Việt Nam ơi. Sài Gòn đó từng con phố nhỏ, mỗi dòng đường hàng vàng dấu chân con. Nha Trang đã gánh trời thơ mộng, nhưng chẳng bao giờ con dám quên. Giờ đây mỗi đứa con lặn lội mối neo, đứa luôn đồn, đứa ca lì, đưa đèo theo gió hút. Gặp nhau từng dòng lệ xót xa, buông những câu chào đôi ba sinh nữ. Bonjour, au revoir, hello, goodbye. Con ôm đầu chua xót đắng cay. Thưa mẹ, thưa mẹ, thưa mẹ, quê hương mình đã chết rồi. Mẹ ơi, mẹ ơi, mẹ Việt Nam ơi.
April 30th. It was over 40 years ago. With an older person like me, I also wanted to try to remember. I thought that it was the last day of my life because we were the ones who followed our families to move to the South. At that time, I was about 7 or 8 years old. My family was exactly like I said. Were killed by the communists because that Vietnamese communist was a nightmare, a darkest dream in my life. When I heard about the Viet Cong, I was afraid of losing. My mother cried so much. Back then, my mother was already old. She told me that she had to go now. At that time, I put my clothes in my suitcase, and my mother said that if we didn't want to go, she still had to leave because she couldn't stay with the Viet Cong. I asked her how she could go by herself. She told me that she would find a way to go from anywhere or from Bac Dang Wharf to see if there were any vehicles left. I then asked her now how she could go at that time because Viet Cong was shooting canyons while we were at the home sheltering. We were on Tan Dun District, Mr. Ta's Junction. Viet Cong was bombing loudly in the city. I told my husband to take the car and drive Mom and the family to the city because from Thap Bin to the city was a bit far. The road was crowded and the Viet Cong was shelling from Tan Phu. People were running and dodging. It was very scary that April 30th. We moved to Tu Song Avenue to stay with the nuns. My brother was practicing Christianity at that time. We moved there to live and I was teaching. The communists came to my house because my husband was in so-called re-education camp and became a prisoner of hardship. They came to harass my family and forced me to sign the papers to relocate to the new economic zone. I told them that I had an old mother and my husband is in jail. If they release my husband, then I will go. I didn't fear at all. Many people asked why I was stubborn. I told them directly, let my husband go, and I will go. I am weak and just have a few months old infant. If you guys send me away to a new economy, what do I do to live? They entranced me by telling me if I go up there, they will arrange for me to continue studying. But I told them no, unless they let my husband go, then I will go.
Khi em mới sinh ra, anh đã xa Sài Gòn. Khi em lớn lên, thành phố đôi chú thấy tên. Một ngày cuối tháng tư, anh từ xa quê hương. Bao đau thương, bao chia ly và bao mất mát. 45 năm qua mau, bao thứ đã phai màu. Riêng anh sắc son, Sài Gòn mãi trong tim. Và lòng vẫn ước mơ một ngày thấy tên yêu vang nơi nơi. Em yêu ơi, Sài Gòn anh mãi yêu người. Nhưng con đường yêu dấu, lá mê bay ngập trời. Nhớ những chiều đưa đón, áo em bay nơi đâu. Người về đây đứng giữa công viên, lòng còn mơ năm tháng hoa niên. Ơi Sài Gòn, 45 năm bồi hồi. Anh kể cho em nghe nét xưa xinh Sài Gòn, em sẽ xót xa thời hòn ngọc viên đồng. Ngậm ngùi những đôi thay, nhưng lòng vẫn tin mơ. Em yêu ơi, anh yêu em, Sài Gòn một thoáng 45 năm. Khi em mới sinh ra, anh đã xa Sài Gòn. thành phố đô chú thay tên. Một ngày cuối tháng tư, anh từ ra quê hương, bao đau thương, bao chia ly và bao mất mát. 45 năm qua mau, bao thứ đã phai màu. Riêng anh sắc son, Sài Gòn mãi trong tim. Và lòng vẫn ước mơ một ngày thấy tên yêu vang nơi nơi. Em yêu ơi, Sài Gòn anh mãi yêu người. Nhưng con đường yêu dấu, lá mẹ bay ngập trời. Nhớ những chiều đưa đón, áo em bay nơi đâu. Người về đây đứng giữa công viên, lòng còn mơ năm tháng hoa niên. Ơi Sài Gòn 45 năm bồi hồi. Anh kể cho em nghe nét xưa xin Sài Gòn, em sẽ xót xa thời hòn ngọc yên đồng. Ngậm ngùi những đổi thay, nhưng lòng vẫn tin mơ. Em yêu ơi, anh yêu em, Sài Gòn một thoáng 45 năm. Em yêu ơi, anh yêu em, Sài Gòn một thoáng 45 năm.
On that day, one could say that it completely changed the lives of the Vietnamese people. I was made the district chief of Chau Ton District to replace Major Phạm Văn Ton because he passed away 1 month ago. I was ordered by the providential chief of Kien Phuong, which was Colonel Nguyễn Văn Minh. He told me to pick up the newspaper and go to the meeting. Around 3 p.m., I saw an American-style car with 2 colors, like the National Police. I saw a person with a K-54 rifle riding in the car. He wore a helmet, white shirt, and blue pants. I went to stand at the stairs and recognized it was Sergeant Dunn. He said that I was the secretary of Khao Lan District Commissioner for 9 years already, but no one knew. He told me not to worry and wanted to have a drink together at that night. At Khao Lan Bridge, there was a cafe owned by Mr. Howe. He was a financial officer. He had a son who died a day before due to communist shelling. He was very sad, so Dunn and I shared a few condolences. We were in a state of not knowing what our fate was like. Then Mr. Dunn told me, "You have to go early tomorrow before the Chow Mao Luan Xuan bus will come to Ga Lan Bridge." I went there immediately, saw outside Mr. Hua's cafe. There were 2 pillars painted with a list of people who must pay with blood. Among them was Colonel Nguyễn Văn Minh, Lieutenant Colonel Bùi Văn Hoa, and then my name and a few more. I told myself that I have to leave, otherwise the communists will eventually execute me. I just walked over to the other side of the community when the Chow Luan Xuan bus arrived. I boarded the bus and sat down. Then a lady introduced Lieutenant Colonel Vin, District Chief of Hong Mu District. He asked me to come over and sit down. I went out and sat on the coal bag. He told me that if the communists captured me, he will shoot me and then himself. He asked me to do the same for him. I agreed, and we both shook hands with each other. We traveled on the bus for early morning to 11 p.m. and arrived at Saigon. We were imprisoned in many communist labor camps. At first, I was in Ki Tum and then Chang Trung. After that, they transferred me to Yen Bai and Tan Quan. They sent us to numerous labor camps. You must know that when you go to prison in the north of Vietnam, the communists already group us into paratroopers, special ops, militia resistance, and intelligence units, and so on. They categorize us first, and we have to stay in our groups. So, after 10 years of labor camp, I never thought of coming out of the camp. I thought my life was over. For 13 years and months, I had no one visiting, no gifts or food, because I was an orphan. I was dependent on my friends in the camp. Whoever had something, we shared and ate thankfully for that meal. If not, it was just corn and sweet potatoes for all year round. There are only 2 days in a year, which was the morning of New Year's and my birthday. Then one day, the communists decided to release 40 prisoners. They called number 36, and I still couldn't hear my name. Number 37 was an armed tank pilot. Then came 39. Then came my name. Honestly, I couldn't hear my name because my ears were filled with white noise. I couldn't hear that I was released. Another prisoner standing next to me told me that I was released. I had to listen again to believe it. He asked me to leave him any camouflage bandana. I told him that I would. Then I said that I would go into the assembly area in the hall. The communist officer gave each prisoner 50 Vietnamese dong. 50 Vietnamese dong for transportation to go home. Then, when we got into the bus, the people saw us wearing torn clothes with prisoner ID still printed on our backs. Because we don't have any other clothes, then they knew that we were communist prisoners. We traveled from Ham Ton to Saigon with 750 Vietnamese dong. The people collected the money from me and my friends. It was 750 Vietnamese dong. That showed the people really loved the communist prisoners. After that, I arrived in Saigon about 9 p.m. I tried to hail a bus from my Honda moped. The driver told me that I didn't need to pay. I asked him if he knew me. He said, "Oh my God, you were a communist prisoner. How could I not know that?" He told me to get onto his moped and not to pay. He rode me home without taking a dime.
Mẹ lỡ sinh ra thằng con đi bộ đội, con đem quân về đâu tố mẹ cha. Mẹ lỡ sinh ra thằng con theo Cộng hòa, đời lao tù giữa những người cùng màu da. Mẹ lỡ sinh ra thằng con bán nước dâng hiến quê nhà chôn anh vuốt ngoài băng. Mẹ lỡ sinh ra thằng con đi giết mướn, thân xác da vàng giờ phơi đầy như nghĩa trang. Ôi mẹ Việt Nam, ôi đớn đau cho mẹ, những đứa con của mẹ đưa đã thân tàn, đưa đã tim khô. Ôi mẹ Việt Nam, ôi xót thương cho mẹ, hồn mẹ hoa đá giữa muôn trùng hư vô. Mẹ lỡ sinh ra thằng con tên tị nạn, con sang xứ lạ trôi bỏ quê hương. Mẹ đã ra đi thuyền mẹ gặp hải tặc, giờ mẹ lưu lạc chốn nào giữa đại dương. Mẹ hãy sinh thêm những thằng con phục quốc, con sẽ trở về giành lại quê hương. Rồi một ngày nào con đưa mẹ về nước, mẹ sẽ thôi buồn vì đã lỡ sinh những thằng con. Ôi mẹ Việt Nam, ôi đớn đau cho mẹ, những đứa con của mẹ đưa đã thân tàn, đưa đã tim khô. Ôi mẹ Việt Nam, ôi xót thương cho mẹ, hồn mẹ hoa đá giữa muôn trùng hư vô. Mẹ lỡ sinh ra thằng con tên tị nạn, con sang xứ lạ trôi bỏ quê hương. Mẹ đã ra đi thuyền mẹ gặp hải tặc, giờ mẹ lưu lạc chốn nào giữa đại dương. Mẹ hãy sinh thêm những thằng con phục quốc, con sẽ trở về giành lại quê hương. Rồi một ngày nào con đưa mẹ về nước, mẹ sẽ thôi buồn vì đã lỡ sinh những thằng con. Rồi một ngày nào con đưa mẹ về nước, mẹ sẽ thôi buồn vì đã lỡ sinh những thằng con.
Today, the 45th year marks the faithful day of April 30th, 1975. The children of motherland Vietnam dispersed around the world, choosing free lands to build their second homeland. Please light a sacred candle to pray and pay tribute to the Republic of Vietnam soldiers and allies who used their lives to protect the freedom of South Vietnam and had bravely sacrificed in their last moments in dying for South Vietnam. 45 years ago, the soldiers lost their lives due to illnesses, due to the brutal exile of the communists and a drunken revenge at the harsh labor camps. The children of the Republic of Vietnam died on the Cambodian battlefields. The wives of the soldiers of the Republic of Vietnam have died in vain when they were exiled to the deepest forests and toxic water because of the traps and the disease. The people who lost their lives in the vast sea upon the greatest escape of the nation's history. They died in desperation with hope, longing to the depths of the sea and the forests at the borders. Today's prayer candle, we pray for a country still devastated by communism that will quickly free from the toxic atheism so that more than 90 million people can have a fair life, compassion, full of human rights and happiness. A proud Vietnam with a history that ancestors helped build for so long.
Đầy tự hào với dòng lịch sử mà tiền nhân đã dày công kiến tạo.
Em gửi về cho anh dăm bao thuốc lá. Anh đốt cuộc đời cháy mòn trên ngón tay, gửi về cho mẹ dăm chiếc kim may. Mẹ mai hồ con tìm gan quá đóa đầy, gửi về cho chị dăm ba sắp vải. Chị may áo cưới hay chỉ may áo tang, gửi về cho em kẹo bánh thanh thang. Em ăn cho ngọt vì đời nhiều cay đắng. Con gửi về cho cha một mảnh áo trắng. Cha mất một lần khi ra pháp trường phơi thây, gửi về Việt Nam nước mắt đồng đầy. Mơ ước một ngày quê hương sẽ thanh bình. Em gửi về cho anh một cây bút máy. Anh vẽ cuộc đời như ước vọng mong manh, gửi về cho mẹ dăm gói tre xanh. Mẹ phá hồ con nước mắt đã khô cằn, gửi về đốt cuộc đời trong hoang lạnh mù sương, gửi về cho em chiếc nhẫn yêu thương. Em bán cho đời tiệm đường vượt biên, con gửi về cho cha vài viên thuốc ngủ. Cha rũ cuộc đời trong ngục tù chung thân, gửi về Việt Nam khúc hát ân cần. Mơ ước yên lành trong giấc ngủ da vàng, gửi về Việt Nam khúc hát ân cần. Mơ ước yên lành trong giấc ngủ da vàng.
The same day, 45 years ago, on April 30th, 1975, the painful day of the nation, hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese soldiers shed bone and blood because the Republic of Vietnam was betrayed. The Democratic Party forced the United States of America to cut off aid, supplies, and weapons for the Republic of Vietnam. We were forced to die. The Communist Vietnam violated the Paris Agreement to invade South Vietnam. The blood of thousands of dissidents of the Republic of Vietnam were poured out on April 30th, 1975. It was the painful day of the nation. Many families were separated. Children lost fathers. Wives lost husbands. Hundreds of thousands of boat people died after April 30th, 1975, to cross the sea and cross the border in search of freedom. Now, 45 years have passed, but this resentment is still in the hearts of patriotic Vietnamese. I would like to ask the compatriots overseas, blood of the soldiers of the Republic of Vietnam poured out on the day of national suffering, April 30th, 1975. So now, over 4 million Vietnamese are present in the United States and throughout Europe and Australia. I ask you to answer me clearly when you hear that Chinese ships invade Vietnamese partly islands, when you hear that Chinese communists are killing Vietnamese people on Vietnamese territorial waters. Were you resentful, hatred, or not? If you were resentful and have hatred, you still have the heart of Vietnam, and you still have patriotism. Now, we are in the United States, and we are very successful. We have generals and scientists. We succeed in every way. The total output of the overseas Vietnamese is higher than the total output of the people in the country. We have beautiful houses with enormous entrance, fame, and money. Don't ask you to give up your possessions for the people. I ask you to use what you already have in your hands, which is a Vietnamese American ballot. We have to use the ballot to vote for the Republic Party. We have to stand behind U.S. President Donald Trump. We cannot mourn like the past 44 years. This year, on April 30th, 2020, let's stand behind the President of the United States because he is dueling the Chinese Communists. He is protecting the human rights of the whole world. At the moment, the whole world has seen the Chinese Communists as an enemy. We are victims of Chinese and Vietnamese Communist ships. We cannot be insensitive to our fatherland. We have to contribute and have to join hands to fight against communism. April 30th, 1975 to now is 45 years. We have left for a long time because we are emotionless and we turn our backs to the country. Whoever still has a little mercy and love for the country when hearing the Chinese invade and destroy Vietnamese sea and land. And if you still have a little regret and shame on the national hatred, you still have your patriotism. Please, for the sake of the motherland and for the sake of 55 million people, all my fellow Vietnamese abroad, please use your votes and vote for U.S. President Donald Trump so he can destroy the Chinese and Vietnamese communists. Only that can help us solve the national hatred April 30th, so it becomes action to help the entire Vietnamese people in the country to disband the communism and democrat free. Respectfully yours. This is a message recalling the sacrifices of those boat people, the sacrifices of the Republic of Vietnam Army, especially the sacrifices of all the heroic soldiers of the 18th Division for fighting to protect La Can's province, letting us cross the borders. The soldiers of the 18th Division, commanded by General Lee Min Dao, stand behind to fight to the last bullet so we can escape to the United States. We must do something for our homeland to show resentment. On April 30th, 2020, gather all your votes for President Donald Trump to stand behind him to destroy the Vietnamese communists and to bring democracy and freedom to the people of Vietnam. Respectfully yours. I am Buddhist monk Thich Tom Lai, sending this message from April 30th, 2020. Best wishes to the people in the country and abroad.
Cờ vàng bay trên thành phố ta hôm nay, cờ vàng bay mang nỗi nhớ quê nhà xa xăm. Cờ bay Florida, cờ bay California, hai nơi em ơi hân hoan chúng ta chào đón. Cờ bay vui nước mắt, cờ bay trong tiếng hát, bao năm đấu tranh để có hôm nay. Đây cờ vàng ba sọc đỏ như ba biển tổ quốc thân yêu. Cờ theo anh vượt qua biển lớn, cờ theo cha đến miền Bắc Tây, cờ tung bay trên những phố lưu vong xứ người. Cờ bay mang khát vọng dân chủ tự do, cờ bay bao khốn khó gian nan lướt qua. Cờ bay trong đêm linh thiêng, cờ bay buốt sương tình mơ. Anh ơi em ơi vinh quang dòng dân là hồng. Cờ vàng tung bay tự hào Việt Nam phất phới cao trong nắng mai bao ngỡ trên quê hương mình. Cờ vàng bay trên thành phố ta hôm nay, cờ vàng bay mang nỗi nhớ quê nhà xa xăm. Cờ bay Florida, cờ bay California, anh ơi em ơi vinh quang chúng ta chào đón. Cờ bay vui đất mơ. Anh ơi em ơi, vinh quang dòng dân lan hồng, cờ vang tung bay tự hào Việt Nam, phất phới cao trong nắng bay mang ngỡ trên quê hương mình. Cờ vang tung bay tự hào Việt Nam, phất phới cao trong nắng bay mang ngỡ trên quê hương mình.
For the past 45 years, we have found that our community is growing very fast if we compare it to the 4 or 5 Asian races who are living in the United States more than a century. The Vietnamese refuge and the Vietnamese overseas in the United States have immigrants only 45 years. But if we look around, we have to say the number of successful Vietnamese people in the United States is many. They have succeeded with much effort and rise. They have risen from tears, risen from hard work, risen by patience. We see almost every field has our Vietnamese people, such as in the military. The United States troops has Vietnamese, hold the position of general, captains, or quite important position in areas of medicine, science, and electronic engineering. All have the presence of Vietnamese people. This shows that we have the right, and because of the strong development of the overseas Vietnamese community, not only in the United States, but also in other countries, in Australia, in Canada. The rapid growth of the Vietnamese community has shown that Vietnamese people are very hardworking and industrious, making sacrifices for their future generation. We see success and hard work of the previous generation, which is the generation of grandparents. The generation of our parents created opportunities for future generations, for the younger generation, so that we have the opportunity to create success. And from that success, the next generation will understand the sacrifice of the previous generation, sacrificed so much to create the foundation for development. The next generation must remember to contribute to the development of the community. I really hope that in the coming years, we continue to see the success of the next generation. This is also the dream and ambition of the overseas Vietnamese.
Những ngày xa quê hương là những ngày mang đau thương. Một ngày xa quê hương là một ngày mang đau khổ. Một ngày không nắng ấm và một ngày mong mưa rào. Một ngày thiếu hơi thở của đồng cỏ nước Việt Nam. Đất nào sinh ra tôi, mẹ hiền nào cứu mang tôi. Miền nào nuôi thân tôi mà giờ này tôi xa rồi. Này dòng sông phơi nắng, kia đồng ruộng lúa chín vàng. Giờ này đã xa rồi và ngàn đời nhớ Việt Nam. Đến bao giờ trở về Việt Nam, thăm đồng lúa vàng thăm con đò chiều thoáng. Đường mòn quanh co ôm chân hàng che thăm, nghe gió chiều nhẹ đưa. Đến bao giờ ta được nhìn ta được nhìn ta trong niềm vui phố
xưa. Cô em đôi mắt ước mang sầu, chia ly ra đón anh về.
Một đêm anh mơ mình dịu dít đưa nhau về,
Thăm quê xưa với vườn câu thề.
bàn tay
Anh đang dìu em bước trên đò cô, đi trong hoang vắng chiều Tây Đô.
bờ sông yêu
Xưa ta áo thương ta đi điều, sao anh không thấy về những điều.
dường như
Người anh nghe đời nắng chiếu trong màu đen, đen như mảnh áo hồn trở về.
hãy nhớ và hãy nhớ
Nhớ người Việt Nam đang lạc loài, hãy thương và hãy quý tình đồng bào ta với ta. Hãy biết và hãy biết rằng ngày mai khi ta về, hãy nhớ ngọn lửa hồng đốt san và niềm tin. Quê hương ơi Việt Nam nước tôi mong ngày về từng phút người ơi. Quê hương tôi năm ngày nhìn cười, cho tôi tiếng khóc từ khi ra đời.
bây giờ mình
Đã đổi đời bây giờ buồn lắm người ơi, thương cho ai chờ mong héo hắt, nhắc qua để rồi đêm xuống gặp người.
nghe
Hồi có cây khóc gió than vàng, kể từ khi mất quê hương, gió xa khơi đưa người vượt biển.
mẹ chờ thư
Về ngồi thèm thuồng miếng trâu cay, trẻ thơ lang thang vì cơn đói suốt bao ngày. Vợ chờ đến chồng để về quá xa xăm, bao năm giải phóng như thế ngày phản không anh.
gió chiều mang
Hương quê lòng giật mình trong cơn mê, ngày dài ôi lê thế mà hồn mình như ê chề. Sài Gòn trong nắng cháy là trong sương mờ, chiều nào biết Vũng Tàu sông tận cùng đến Cà Mau.
mấy năm rồi
Tưởng chừng ngày qua đêm lòng nhớ nhà đường bằng xa, bàn vào rừng sâu
ngày ra vùng soi
đã thương đi một thời qua. Nếu mai này muốn lòng nở hoa, ta lìa đất mới trong niềm vui chứa chan.
quê hương yêu
Dấu với con đường thêm tháng tư đón ta về.
ngày xưa
Ta quen từng viên đá quanh sân trường,
nay sao nghe ca
ngữ lên đường.
tàu đưa
Đưa ta đi tàu sẽ đón ta hồi hương, Tây Đô sẽ sống lại yêu thương.
nhớ chiều quê
Hương ơi thật tận cùng xa xôi thôi, vùng trời nhà chân xưa và dòng đồng nai hững hờ. Này Cần Thơ nắng ấm kia ruộng đồng lúa chín vàng, giờ này đã xa rồi và ngàn đời nhớ Việt Nam. Giờ này đã xa rồi và ngàn đời nhớ Việt Nam.
Thank you to all the viewers for watching the entire April 30th memorial program. It is exactly 45 years the Southern Vietnamese lost control of the country to the Northern Communists, and also marked 45 years of successful establishment in the overseas Vietnamese refugee community. Thank you so much. As Phong promised after the show, Phong will review and read your comments, and especially the young people in Vietnam, to answer all the young people in Vietnam so you understand clearly what happened 45 years ago and why we have the flag colors on our shirts, the yellow flag with 3 red stripes. I hope that from the show you can understand what happened to us 45 years ago when the Southern Vietnam was forced to die. That's what we share with you. And now allow me to read some of the comments from the young people, especially from those who still live in Vietnam. Questions that are related to South Vietnam. I am a person who has gone through those eras, and I am also a victim who witnessed what happened, and at least I lived with the Vietnamese communists for 10 years after 1975. For that, I can speak and answer for young people, mostly for you to better understand. Thank you very much. And now I'm skipping through the thanks and greetings from you guys. I hope there will be young people who have participated in the program. The first question is about General Lee Minh Dao.